that this event would be taking place here, and that is a remarkable milestone. Mr. President, as you've said, Somalia continues to face many challenges, whether they are socioeconomic or humanitarian, breaking Somalia's dependency upon external assistance and increasing its own financial viability, and many political issues, whether relating to the growing pains of an emerging federal state or to resolving the many conflicts around the country, and of course Al.Shabab. Security is the main issue, as you have said, and tomorrow we will be covering many of these points. But I would like to say, Mr. President, that despite these extraordinary challenges and despite the rude shock represented by the October the 14th bombing, that tragedy, a great deal of progress has been made since you were elected not that long ago in this very room, only 10 months ago, and your government has only existed for 8 months. Some of those things include prevention of a famine, revenues to the state going up, and the development of a pathway for normalization of relations with the international financial institutions, an increasingly functional federal structure. And there's a lot of focus on the politics, but actually at the working level, there's a lot of positive things going on, whether in the aid, coordination and planning areas, fiscal federalism, the Speakers Forum, justice and corrections, and so on, and indeed in the security area. So let me focus on the security area. And today is really about taking stock, agreeing next steps in line with your priorities, and recommitting to providing coherent support to Somalia to face the many challenges ahead, particularly in the security sector. I would like to echo your remarks, Mr. President, about the role that AMISOM has played in Somalia and the sacrifice it has made, and the progress to date would not have been possible without the success of AMISOM in protecting the political process and in protecting the population. And both AMISOM and Somali security forces have paid a heavy price over the many years. But there are many, many challenges before us, including the security deficits that you have identified. But the good news is that we do have the security pact and the security architecture and a commitment to building capable, accountable, acceptable and affordable security forces. We have an expanded National Security Council which has now met 4 times in the last 8 months, I believe. We have state security councils emerging, and the agreements reached yesterday in the National Security Council I think are very relevant and very welcome, whether relating to sectorization, the distribution of police forces, the emergence of state-level police plans, and the many other very significant points that you agreed yesterday. I would like to echo your remarks about the significance of the operational readiness assessment and congratulate the federal government for undertaking this. It really does provide a baseline for a plan going forward, a conditions-based transition plan from AMISOM to Somali security forces. And I think it's great that there are plans to do it in the policing area and indeed in other security fields. I think the comprehensive approach to security also gives us a mechanism that complements the national security architecture by which we can work together and really focus on practical things to move forward. And I think what's significant about your thinking behind this, our collective thinking behind this, is the recognition that security is not just a military phenomenon. Defeating Al-Shabab cannot be done exclusively by military means. That rule of law and policing are essential, that stabilization activities are essential, that countering and preventing violent extremism is also essential, as well as addressing and resolving the many conflicts around the country upon which Al.Shabab and other extremists thrive. But clearly a priority is the Somali National Army and indeed the Somali National Police. And I think while it's important that we agree among ourselves, I think, as you have said, Mr. President, it's also important that the Somali public and civil society and Parliament is also involved and consulted as these plans emerge to ensure that they enjoy full popular support. A conditions-based transition plan is now really essential. The troop contributing countries need it and AMISOM needs it, both because they need a partner to hold territory and to work with in their operational activities, but also because they cannot stay in Somalia forever and they need a horizon. Investors in Somalia's security also need it as a horizon and as a basis upon which to take planning and financial decisions. But above all, I believe the Somali public and the Somali people want it and deserve it. A transition to full responsibility assumed by Somalis for their own security. I believe that there are going to be a number of opportunities emerging, some fairly quickly, to implement the security architecture. Some are before us already. Perhaps Lower Shabelle is one potential one. Others include Middle Shabelle. Benadir itself has already seen a transition of security responsibility in many respects, but in other places. And we need to figure out what are the conditions that most lend themselves to accelerating the implementation of the security architecture so that it becomes very real. Let me conclude, Mr. President, by saying that I do believe that we face three big issues going forward. One is to implement that security architecture led by the federal government and work together to support you to do that. But again, let me congratulate you for the decisions that were taken yesterday, which I think are tremendously encouraging in terms of providing momentum. Secondly, is to develop a conditions-based transition plan which is owned and led by the federal government, but to which we all contribute. Because that is not only an operational plan, there are financing dimensions, and I believe I'm speaking on all behalf of international partners that we want to contribute to the articulation of that, working very closely with the African Union, AMISOM, and in particular the major security investors. And then thirdly, continued international support, in particular to build the capacity of Somali security forces. And I think the ability of international partners to do this will be linked to progress on implementation of the security architecture and the articulation and implementation of that transition plan. Let me just very finally say that I think, Mr. President, Somalis deserve coherent support by the international community to doing this. And I think the comprehensive approach to security does provide a mechanism to bring everybody together to work with you and your colleagues to move down this pathway, including in the area of financing. So I strongly urge that we work together to achieve that. And the UN stands ready to work with you and to work with our partners to that end. Thank you very much.